Yeah, that's a classic. Back then with the 6th generation, all the dashboards that you had, the GameCube, the Xbox, and the PS2 had a ton of personality, and they're still super memorable. In fact, if you just start up any one of those in the first second or so, you'll probably be able to say which system it is. And I think it's awesome that it's been able to stand the test of time. However, there were also a ton of limitations. I mean, really looking at how much you can do versus now with the current systems, yeah, it was pretty bare bones. But during that generation, the online integration with consoles really started to get moving with Xbox Live, the PS2 going online, and the GameCube. That had Phantasy Star. But for the most part, the PS2 and the Xbox really were trying to figure their way through up until the next generation with the 360 and the PS3, where it all really took off. But in Japan, the PS2 actually ended up getting what was essentially a new dashboard, and it was far more functional than what we had in the US. The problem is it never left Japan, so it's been in Japanese this whole time, and for the most part even region locked to different systems, and specifically the fat model PS2 where you had the hard drive bay. Well, the homebrew community remains undefeated because now there's a version that's been translated to English. It actually kind of unlocked now for us to use, so I decided to load it up onto an SSD and pop it into the fat PlayStation 2 that I have here with HDMI out and try it out. So that's what we're going to do here today. We are going to explore the PlayStation Broadband Navigator and see what it has to offer. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. Well, I guess there's no better way to start this than, well, the startup for it, since because it's a new dashboard, if you have the hard drive installed and locked into the back of the PS2, you won't have your typical opening for the PlayStation 2. You'll have this. The PlayStation BB top menu. So we have the guide, channels, internet service provider, and system configuration. Now, I did hook this up to my network, and I also set like the date and time and all that stuff. So it is ready to roll here in terms of online connection, which all of that's been restored here through like archives. So we can go on here through the channels. It'll connect, and we can explore it like it was back then in the early 2000s. And to be completely upfront, this is not something that is really, really intuitive in order to install onto the hard drive. You have to load up into a Linux environment and then use different scripts to flash to the hard drive. I will leave a link down below in the description to a really, really thorough guide that does a good job step-by-step trying to get you to the finish line, and I think most people would be able to. Just understand that it's not something that you're going to load up in Windows with a program, a couple of clicks, and it's off and running. There is a bit more work there, but once you get the hard drive set up and pop it into your PS2, this is what you'll see. So let's actually just go into the channels, because that was the biggest thing people were talking about when I posted this video here on social media. So you have game channel, you have music channel, all the way over here hidden is the photo channel, and then if we go back, we have our movie channel. So just taking a look at these in order, game channel, we have, if we go in here, we have several different companies that are represented. Right now we have, like, there's Sony, there's Capcom, there's Sony, PlayStation Now, Koei, Game City, Konami, Namco, Bandai Entertainment, World, Hudson Channel, EA Channel, which seems kind of out of place, but although it is at the bottom and you have to sort of scroll to it. So if you go to any one of these, which we'll go ahead and start at we'll just go to the PlayStation Now channel, and it'll take a moment to load as it's going through the network. There we go, PlayStation Now, the little exclamation point. A nice little space background there as it's loading in. It takes a little while to load, by the way, so I'll kind of jump ahead if I have to, if loading is taking a while. Again, it's just going through like the archive that they have set up and call to. So you have information, accessory, and software. I will note that some of the the channels and the UI that are set up are more thought out than others. Like, there's definitely more work put into some of these versus others. So let's go to accessories. And what I noticed as I was going through is it's almost like Home Shopping Network, but for video games. It's kind of an interactive catalog, things you would get in the mail back in the day for games. And in this instance, you can go through PlayStation 2, you can go through PS1, up the little screen even, and then the PSP. And it is as straightforward as, let me go to PS2, and you'll get a list of different accessories that you can look at, and then it'll give you the pricing and what they all do. So here's DualShock 2. Hey, look, they have all different colors. Wow. I think I had the standard black, and then I believe I had the transparent blue over here to the right. I'd never had the yellow. I did see the green at one point. There's so many different DualShock 2 controllers. Same with analog controller, the DualShock. But I always just had the standard, like the white mod, like the one that came with the system. As for memory cards, though, they had a ton of those as well. I had the red one right there on the left. That was the one that I had primarily when I was at the standard black. And we have memory cards for the PS1. There's the DVD controller. There's the AV cables, S-video, component cables. This is really what it is. It's like, oh yeah, do I want to look at all the accessories, different things I can buy for it? So I guess when I go to the store, there's the 40 gig hard drive. There's the cell phone connection cable that I'm sure many people didn't know existed. And then we have the different stands. Yes, they still sold stands back then. I believe if I go into one of these, which I'll go to, let me go up to, let's take a look at the memory card. There we go. If I go in here, it'll give me, so it tells the pricing, 2,800 yen, and then also gives you just sort of the breakdown as to what it's for, the different colors, and the model numbers. So, again, it's very straightforward with what this is. It's this interactive catalog that you can go through. But if you think about back then, this would have been in Japan, 2002, 2003. The going online, you didn't have a cell phone in your pocket, for example, that you took out and looked at maybe listings of stuff on Amazon or something. You're pretty much at the mercy of a catalog that shows up in the mail, or if you happen to go to the store and pick up one of their circulars, and that was kind of it. This is basically a way, as you can see, updated weekly with software for them to reach out to you with, yes, more products to sell you, but in a way it was kind of cool because you can keep up to date pretty easily. In the days before YouTube or fast-loading websites, there's this guy, a portable, the PSP, Chronicle Dungeon Maker 2, okay, Spectrum Gene, there's a PS2 game at least. A lot of PSP I'm noticing here, although I guess technically if you think about it, the PSP would still have been supported. I mean, the PS2, while it was still around, say 2007, 2008, it was on its way out. PS3 was there. But if I go into Star Ocean First Departure, let's see what kind of media we have here. Because you would still be able to, you can't view trailers. They would have you download the trailers, and then you'd be able to look at them. I think it was kind of the same thing with screenshots, if I'm not mistaken here. Download. There we go. We have some screenshots here. Look at that. That looks good. Is that just it's just like a background you can have? Let's grab this. We'll grab a screenshot from the game. Download. Download. That part's not translated. I think it's this one. There we go. All right. This download. See, because of course we have, would you like to see it now? Yes, I would. That is now on our photo channel. There it is. Can't really do much else with it, but we have a photo now. So I guess if you just wanted to go through and save your screenshots, so when your friends come over and you can show them the game you're looking forward to, it's stored right in the photo channel. Let's check out the Konami channel. I've gone through a few of these now, and a lot of them are very similar to what we just saw there with PlayStations, where you have box art, you have screenshots, and sometimes you should have different movies as well. Pro Evolution Soccer 2013, Powerful Pro Baseball 12, Winning 11-9, Castlevania Curse of Darkness. There you go. Let's see. Suikoden Tactics, Metal Gear Solid 3. Okay, let's go in there. See, we have, it's just the movie. These are just movies. Okay, so promotional movie, 187 megabytes. I'm going to download now. You know what? I'm going to roll the dice. We're going to download it. Let's see how long this takes. 187 megabytes. Oh, man. Well, this might be a while. It ended up taking like 15 minutes to download that. And what you end up with, as you can see, is a very compressed Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence trailer. So, somewhat anticlimactic in the results, but you know what is kind of cool that you could technically download 180. I mean, think about it, 187 megabytes then. How many of those PS2 memory cards would that have been? A lot. So they were pushing some big numbers at this point. The fact that they had that built-in hard drive, I mean, the built-in hard drive was big for the original Xbox. So obviously Sony getting that, adding it to the PS2, certainly, as you can see, unlocked a lot of stuff with this software. And while up to this point it's mostly been promotional, there are some other interesting things here. So, for example, let's go into the Hudson channel. Oh, check it out. See, that's what I mean. Some of these channels had a bit more work, but if I love the animation, you got Bomberman running past. I don't know what that says, but like that's actually pretty cool. Okay, play games. Here's what I was curious about. It seems like Hudson went above and beyond. Thank you, Hudson. Okay, play games. Fun little animation there for the transition. This is pretty cool. They have high scores that are kept here for these different games. Oh, there's Star Soldier too. Look at that. Hey, different scores. So this is a really cool idea, right? You go on here, you go on their channel, you pick this. It has that high score, so it has a leaderboard attached to it. All of this happening through the channel, of course, and the network and hooked up to broadband. Let's see if this will load up. Look at that. I thought it was just going to a black screen and just hanging. Nope. We are in Star Soldier BB. Yeah, it's definitely working. This is pretty. It keeps baking me out with those screens, those black screens that are like 15 seconds long, and I think that they crack or something. This is kind of cool. I know it's a basic like arcade game, right? But the fact that this is something that they just kind of have on their PlayStation, on their network, basically, let me just go through and it's great. It's a pretty cool idea to have this, and with the leaderboards. I mean, at the time, this would have been crazy. Just go on and start playing. So Hudson came out swinging. I got to give him credit. Out of all the channels I checked out, I think Hudson did have the best one. It had the most thought put into it for like the menus and the interactivity, and even just be able to have different arcade scenes already set up and basically streamed in. You didn't have to. I mean, it probably downloaded the background, obviously, to play it, but it wasn't something I had to sit there for 15 minutes and download like that trailer for Metal Gear. Now, I heard this stuff. Saying this way late for Hudson, obviously, but hey, good job. Now to go back, they do have a separate home menu. You press select and it will bring this up here. Top menu, mail. So yes, you could send email using your PS2, which, hey, taking after the Dreamcast, like to see it. We have the open PS2 loader. So we have some of this stuff that was added in, to my understanding, with the homebrew community in mind. Which actually we'll take a look at that real quick, what I'm exactly referring to here. So let me go back to the top menu so it can load back. And if we go back to channels, we have that game channel, right? So if I go in here, once again, and if I go to collection, this is the tab that will basically load anything we have on the hard drive. Because there were things you would be able to download, but because of how this is set up during that process of formatting the drive and having PlayStation BB installed and stuff, you can then add your different ISOs. So I have PS1, PS2 games on here, and they would just load from here. I have one issue, though. It's very, very unreliable, I guess, for the launching, at least for this, for me. I've had it work a few times, but most of the time it does not work. It'll just hang. And after going through the thread and people kind of talking about this, it seems like a different loader is going to be integrated into this. So at this time, it works well, as you're seeing now, for like the PlayStation, like the Broadband Navigator. But for launching a collection of saved ISOs, I don't think it's quite there yet. It's definitely kind of a roll of the dice, a flip of the coin, if you will, if it will work fully for you. It seems to have to do with maybe the SSD type, the network expansion type, the accessory where you plug your hard drive in and the Ethernet cable. So at this time, I'm just going to kind of wait until we have the other open loader or the loader integrated in, and then I'll try it from there. So I have other ways I can launch my games from hard drive. I really just loaded this up on the SSD to check out the PlayStation BB setup. So not a big deal to me right now. Just keep that in mind. At least for me, it hasn't been an all-in-one solution. When they get it there, I think this would be great because you can see it's a really, really well put together menu system, and the fact that you can go into that and just load up your games is really cool. Now, the music channel is also interesting because when you go in here, what you can do, go into collections, you can actually rip audio CDs to the PlayStation 2. So the original Xbox did this well. It was already built into the dashboard immediately day one. But if you put an audio CD in, you could rip it to the hard drive and listen back to it whenever you want without that audio CD. So here I popped in the Octopath Traveler soundtrack. If we go in here, we go to audio CD, record audio CD, yes. Okay, so it's going to go ahead and allocate space. When you set up the SSD and you're going through the prompts for it, or just the hard drive in general, you're setting up the prompts, it's like 40, I set 40 gigabytes aside for audio CDs. All right, I think that's the max. So you should still be able to rip a fair amount of just audio tracks that way. Keep in mind with the original Xbox, people would rip CDs all the time, and that was a 10 gigabyte hard drive. So allotting 40 gigabytes for this is actually significantly more. And there it goes, recording. Seems like it's going to be a little while. The PS2 spun up into overdrive with that disc. So I'm going to let this go here. I'll fast forward it or cut it for you guys so you don't have to sit around the whole time. All right, it took about 6 minutes. So not bad, not bad. Let me grab the disc out of here so we can make sure it works without it. And it should have it in the collection as well. I think the only issue is it won't have any kind of like cover art or anything for it. It's just it's got like album 1, which I guess I should technically name. But for now, let's just double check. Here we go. All the tracks are there. And it's playing. So yeah, you can just save, you'd be able to save any of your music audio CDs to this and play. I don't know if it'll still keep playing after I leave here now. I know it's something you can play in the background. I assume you can't, just because back then, I've said this before, but like my PC at the time, well, not at this time, it was before this, it was harder to play audio CDs or just music and still browse the internet or anything on your computer back then. It depended on the setup. Like you had, I think at that time, the good computer in our home had 128 megabytes of RAM. Nah, that might have been before this. I'm trying to think. This would have been like 2002. No, I had a PC that had 256 in it, or 512. But it was rough back then, okay? It was rough. Game channel, or we already talked about the photo channel, which we should have our screenshot in here. Collection. And, yep, PlayStation Now. That should be it. There it is. It's our little, I like how they do kind of I've had a bunch of pictures here. They'd be sort of almost in this 3D kind of setup, just in rows. There it is. Pretty cool. So you can save all your game screenshots and everything. Now let's go back again. Yeah, I like how they really leaned into the galaxy theme, where they're like constellations that you're going through, game and world and channel and movie. So this is where if I any of the downloads for movies would be in here, like the trailers. Now there was one other thing I wanted to try here to see if it does work as it's supposed to. For that, we have to turn off the PS2. On boot up, to hold a button down. There we go. So it does have Linux built in, like a whole Linux environment that you can boot into for the PS2. I've never really used it on the PS2. I don't really know what it's even going to be doing technically. The PS2, while a cool game system, I don't know if it works well as a general use PC. Although, hey, they did put Linux on it, and it was a whole thing you could buy, and it'd come in a whole package and everything. So I guess it was a thing. Let's see, roots. Very secure password. If I remember correctly, it is password. There we go. And it's Start X. There we go. That should kick us into the... Oh, I need a mouse. There we go. Let's see. Not a big Linux person. File runner, editor, graphics. GIMP is on there. Workspaces, for what it's worth. Although I think the resolution might be a little off. Seems slightly off. Really different themes. Ooh, I don't know. I don't know what checker looks like. I'm worried about clicking any of these. Oh, see? I already messed it up. What's this? That looks pretty good. Oh, whoa. Okay, never mind. I just messed everything up again. Yeah, again, I don't know what I'd really be in here using this for. I bet you MVG would probably know like what like the reason would be to really get into Linux, or someone in the comments can of course let me know. I got a calculator though, so you know that's something. Oh, I love the transparent windows when you drag it. That is like super old school. That was great. I remember we used to set that back then to make it a bit smoother because, again, swinging the whole like application window around was slow on the system. So it's let's make sure it's right. 6 plus 6. Okay. All right. It passes that test. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the look at the PlayStation BB, the Navigator here. Really, really cool dashboard. I like the look of it. I like the added functionality. At the end of the day, when you boot up a game system, you're generally looking to play games, but it is really cool to have a lot of stuff happening here when it comes to connecting to the internet and, yes, be able to browse products, but also interact in a more meaningful way at this time where you were just going out and buying games off of the shelf. It's cool that you did have ways here with these channels to interact and check things out from the game company specifically right there at home at a time where it was nowhere near as common as it is now. Also, I mean, the look of this is great. It does default right to the game channel. So just going in here, I mean, starting it up, going here, and then having your collection, but then also all this other stuff is, I think, really cool. So technically, yes, there are more button presses to then get to the disc or your collection. But also, if you have a disc in there, you can have it auto start either way. A really cool dashboard that, unfortunately, again, never left Japan. But it is awesome to see the homebrew community really be able to do stuff like this, translate the entire thing, add functionality, and make it widely available so that if you want to, you could do it right now. You can load up a hard drive with this in Linux and then pop it into a fat model PS2 with the expansion bay door with the network on the back. Fire it up and see what you think for yourself. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.